Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about meal paragraphs and their structure. Okay, so meal paragraphs can stand alone. In middle school, you probably have called these meal paragraphs an open response, where you had to give multiple pieces of information, evidence, and then analyze it, and then come up with a concluding sentence. And sometimes your paragraphs were long. In high school, we just call them something different. We call them meal paragraphs. You can put meal paragraphs together in essays. So you did that in 7th grade. You had a bunch of paragraphs put together for the MCAS long comp exam. All right, so what is meal and how does it relate to what I learned in middle school? So first, we've given the sentence names a different name in high school, but they're asking for the same information. So the M of meal is the main idea, or you know it as your topic sentence for the paragraph. The E in meal is evidence, and you may know it as evidence, concrete details, story CD. Sometimes this can be quotes, other times it's examples or details. The A in meal stands for analysis, which you might have known from middle school as CM, commentary, or explaining your evidence. And the L in the meal paragraph is the link, otherwise known as the concluding sentence, which links back to the main idea or claim that your writing was making. So, what are meal paragraphs? What's another name for meal paragraphs? To you, they are body paragraphs. So if this was a multi-paragraph essay, they would not be the introductory or the closing paragraphs because they have different information in them. They would be considered body paragraphs. And these meal paragraphs often contain multiple pieces of evidence. So you just don't have one piece of evidence, just like in middle school. Nobody would let you write an open response that only had one piece of evidence. You had to give the reader more than one piece of evidence to prove your point. So M stands for main idea. Another word for main idea is topic sentence, and this is the most important sentence in the paragraph because it tells you, the reader, what the subject or the claim of the paragraph will be. In a longer essay, each of these paragraphs will support a whole thesis statement or main claim for the whole essay. So that makes sense, right? So each meal paragraph will include a topic sentence that relates to the main claim if you're writing a really, really long essay. So for example, if somebody asked you to prove who was responsible for the death of Romeo and Juliet, okay, in each of your body paragraphs, you would be having evidence that goes back to that original idea of who is ultimately responsible for the deaths of Romeo and Juliet. Okay, so the rest of the paragraph in the meal, once you get past the M, stating your claim or your topic sentence, is all about supporting sentences. And supporting sentences all either give evidence or analyze the evidence in the paragraph. Okay, so let's talk about evidence. Evidence is the proof found in the story or research. It can be in the form of quotes, or it can be details or examples from the text. Not every piece of evidence is a quote. Yes, if you have a quote, that's a really strong piece of evidence, but sometimes you can overquote. So I think that you have to have a nice balance in a paragraph. So let's take an example. If you thought that Friar Lawrence was responsible for the death of Romeo and Juliet, that would be your claim, and then you would have to prove it with evidence. So let's start thinking about some evidence. One, he secretly married the children of enemy families, even though this would most likely have terrible consequences. Okay, why else might he be guilty and responsible for their death? Some more evidence. He gave in to a teenager's dramatic moment. Juliet wanted to kill herself. Everybody remember that? And instead of acting like a responsible adult, instead he says, I know, I'll give you a sleeping potion, which will make you look dead. And then you and Romeo can run away after he comes to save you out of the grave. Then he sends Friar John to deliver the message to Romeo instead of delivering it himself. This guy is not cool. Okay, so then you'd have to analyze all that evidence or comment on how that evidence proves the main idea that he is guilty. So in other words, writing that Friar Lawrence's decision to give Juliet the potion wasn't a good one isn't enough. You have to explain how this decision caused the death of Romeo and Juliet, because that was your claim in your M sentence. So, in this case, how does Friar's actions make him responsible for Romeo and Juliet's deaths? So once you've done all that in the paragraph, you then have to come up with a concluding sentence or a link back to your main idea. So the link links the paragraph back to its original topic, main idea. In a multi-paragraph essay, the link sentence refers to how the paragraph fits in what the paper is trying to prove. So if this was a multi-paragraph essay, at the end of every paragraph, you would have to go back to the idea of why that person was responsible for the death. You couldn't just do it once. You have to do it at the end of every paragraph if this was a multiple paragraph consisting of many meal paragraphs, a multiple paragraph essay consisting of meal paragraphs. All right, so let's look at a sample meal paragraph. Remember, we're making the claim that Friar Lawrence was responsible for the death of Romeo and Juliet. What would our M, or topic sentence, look like for this paragraph? In Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet, Friar Lawrence is responsible for the death of the teenage lovers Romeo and Juliet. Here I have stated my main idea. Friar Lawrence is the responsible party. Then you're going to state the first piece of evidence, then analyze it. So, evidence 1. First, Friar Lawrence agrees to marry Romeo and Juliet, who are from enemy families, while he's warning Romeo, these violent delights have violent ends. And then I need to analyze that evidence to prove my claim. Even though the friar recognizes that rushed or violent love ends badly, he still marries these two young lovers instead of responsibly informing their parents himself or refusing to marry them without their parent consent. By the friar's own words, the audience is already warned that this secret union will end badly. Friar Lawrence did not heed his own advice. Okay, so here I've had 2 analysis sentences for that same piece of evidence. In other words, I commented on it twice because I couldn't say it in one sentence. And that happens a really lot to me, and I'm sure it happens to you too. Okay, so I have one piece of evidence. I've given 2 kind of reasons or comments why that makes Friar Lawrence guilty, being responsible for the death of these 2 young kids. And now I need some more evidence. I just can't have one example. So my second evidence says, when Juliet threatens suicide because of being forced to marry Paris, Friar Lawrence develops a plan where she will drink a potion that will make her appear dead. After her parents bury her, he and Romeo will secretly come to her grave and save her from suffocation. Romeo will then take her to Mantua and thus run away with her. Okay, as you can see, it's a little wordy, but here I am not quoting from the play. Instead, I am paraphrasing some details that are going to help show that Friar Lawrence comes up with this crazy plan. I have to tell them about the plan before I can argue that it was crazy and resulted in these 2 kids killing each other. Okay, so then I have to analyze that evidence. Clearly, the friar exercised poor judgment in developing a dangerous plan where so much could go wrong, instead of simply confessing to the families that he already had married Romeo and Juliet secretly. Also, to recommend that the teenagers run away together is not a responsible adult behavior, since he never considers how the 2 young teenagers will fare in Mantua without their families. So here I've given 2 commentary or analysis sentences to prove that prior piece of evidence, why the friar made a bad decision with this plan that he came up with. Okay, so then I'm going to make my last piece of evidence, my last to support my claim. Last, and I'm going to signal the reader, last, this is my last point coming. Last, the friar sends Friar John to deliver the plan details, and Friar John never makes it to Romeo on time. Romeo kills himself because he believes Juliet to be dead. And again, here I've used events or details from the play as evidence. I do not have a quote. And now I need to analyze this. So what? He did that. How does that have to do with anything? Having such an important plan that could go wrong so quickly, the friar should have delivered the news of the plan himself. His lack of judgment shows once again that the friar does not accept responsibility for his decisions and actions. Okay, now I have to end my paragraph. I had 3 reasons. I've analyzed all the reasons. Now I have to make the overall point to the reader. I have to link back to my main claim that Friar Lawrence's fault, it is his fault that Romeo and Juliet died. So this is a really powerful link statement. By all of his poor decisions, the friar bears the responsibility for Romeo and Juliet's deaths. Had he been honest from the beginning about Romeo and Juliet's love, they would not have felt compelled to commit suicide to be together. So as you can see here, the link went all the way back to the M, the main idea, or TS of this long paragraph. And it is a long paragraph. Okay, so I put together a final draft. I'm going to expect you to look at it. I have left in the type of sentences that we have used just to be able to see the sentence setup. In the final copy of this paragraph, of course, these references to E1, A1, all of those would have to be removed. Also remember, because this is one paragraph, only the first sentence in a paragraph is indented when we write the paragraph. I know that sounds like a really easy concept, and you're like, come on, Miss Perky, I know that. But when people are writing really long meal paragraphs, they forget that and they want to indent at every piece of evidence. No, you only indent the main idea or the topic sentence. Okay, so what follows on the next 3 slides, 19, 20, and 21, is the draft of the whole paragraph put together with the kind of sentences they are. I'm not going to read this entire essay to you all over again. Paragraph to you all over again because I've already read it. So I'm going to expect you to read slowly slides 19, 20, and 21. So this is going to take you a few minutes to read this. And don't forget, you can always go back and replay that video if you feel like you need to read the slides really, really slowly. So this is slide 20, and then slide 21. Okay, so let me just recap what meal is. M is main idea or topic sentence. E is evidence or proof found in the story or research or examples you're using to prove your main idea or claim. A is the analysis or how you're commenting on how the evidence proves the main idea, and the analysis is usually several sentences. And then last, your last sentence of the paragraph is a link or a CS relating back to how your evidence proved your main idea or how an entire paragraph fit into the main idea that you're proving for a whole essay, if this paragraph was part of like a multi-paragraph essay. Okay, so the thing that I want to stress is just because there are only 4 abbreviations, it does not mean that your paragraph is 4 sentences long. You will have multiple E's or multiple evidences, pieces of evidence in a paragraph, and you will have definitely multiple lines of analysis. Okay, so this slide is homework. What you need to do is fill in the blank lines with words that apply that you would have gotten from previous slides in this video. So the first question says, we have created one meal paragraph of, how many sentences was the long paragraph that we just wrote? Go back, count. Okay, so I will be collecting this information, so you need to do it on a separate piece of paper, and I'll be grading it for accuracy, and I'll collect it at the beginning of the class tomorrow when you come in. Thanks so much. Perky out.